Hi everybody, this is Mrs. Buckman, and I'm going to be helping you with the Californios section of the Western Settlers activity. If you take a look on the right-hand side of our screen, you'll notice the Western Settlers notes page where you will be gathering your notes. You have been assigned the Californios, which is the topmost group of settlers. As we read today, we're going to be looking for their reason for settling, the hardships that they faced, their legacy, and any interesting fact that you choose. Reason for settling would be why they came to the West. Hardships faced are the difficulties that they faced. Legacy is why we remember them or what they accomplished. An interesting fact would be anything that is not in one of those three categories that you think is especially interesting. Let's read chapter 16.3, the Californios, together. As we get to information, I'll be highlighting it with you, and you should turn that highlighted information into the information on your right-hand side, into your notes. The Californios. If Lewis and Clark had turned south from Oregon after reaching the Pacific, they would have found Spain's best-kept secret, a sun-drenched land called California. The California missions. In 1769, a Spanish missionary named Junipero Serra led soldiers and priests north from Mexico to California. Serra's goal was to convert the California Indians to Christianity. To do this, he established a chain of missions that eventually spread from San Diego to just north of San Francisco. Each mission controlled a huge area of land, as well as the Indians who worked it. Although the missionaries meant well, the missions were deadly to native Californians. Indians were sometimes treated harshly, and thousands died of diseases brought to California by the newcomers. Settlers followed the missionaries to California. "We were the pioneers of the Pacific coast," wrote Guadalupe Vallejo, building pueblos and missions while George Washington was carrying on the War of the Revolution. To reward soldiers and attract settlers, the Spanish began the practice of making large grants of land. When Mexico won its independence in 1821, California came under Mexican rule. In 1833, the Mexican government closed the missions. Half of the mission land was supposed to go to Indians. Mexico, however, established its own system of land grants in the Southwest and gave most of California's mission lands to soldiers and settlers. The typical Spanish-speaking Californian, or Californio, was granted a rancho of 50,000 acres or more. And so we've read here the Californios. We know that the Californios were the native Spanish, were not the native, but the Spanish-speaking Californians. And so I'm going to highlight this, all right? And so we know that the Californios were the native-speaking Californians. And why did they come to California? All right, why did they come from other parts of Mexico? Well, they came because Mexico gave them ranchos, basically land that they could use, right? Pretty much for free. And so that is what you would have in reasons for settling for Californios. So now we're looking for the hardships that they faced. Life on the ranchos. Life on the ranchos combined hard work and the occasional fiesta or social gathering. Most families lived in simple adobe houses with dirt floors. The Californios produced almost everything they needed at home. Indian servants did much of the work. The ranches were so huge that neighbors lived at least a day's journey apart. As a result, strangers were always welcome for the news they brought of the outside world. During weddings and feasts, Californios celebrated with singing, dancing, and brilliant displays of horsemanship. In the 1830s, cattle ranching became California's most important industry. Cattle provided hides and tallow or beef fat that could be traded for imported goods brought by ship. Among the goods that an American sailor named Richard Henry Dana carried to California in his trading ship were teas, coffee, sugars, spice, raisins, molasses, hardware, dishes, tinware, cutlery, clothing, jewelry, and furniture. Because California was so far from the capital of Mexico City, the Mexican government neglected the territory. Soldiers were not paid, and they took what they needed to survive from the people they were supposed to protect. Officials sent to California to govern California were often unskilled and sometimes dishonest. So right now we're looking at the hardships that the Californios faced. If we look at the beginning of the section, we know that they had to deal with hard work, that they were hard workers, that they lived in simple homes, right, often with dirt floors. We know you might have written down that neighbors lived a journey apart, right, a day's journey apart. That might be a difficulty that they would have to face. And we know that the Mexican government neglected it. We know as a result, soldiers were not paid, and they often stole from the people they were supposed to protect. We know that officials were sent to govern California were often unskilled and sometimes dishonest. And so you're going to take that information and you're going to put it right here. So synthesize this, put these things together, and you're more than welcome to use bullet points to write down what was so difficult about being a Californio. And then finally here, we're looking for legacy. So legacy will be in this block right here, and that is, what do we still remember? What did the Californios do that we still remember today? So, the Californios' legacy. In 1846, the United States captured California as part of the war with Mexico. Before long, Californios were a minority in California. Still, the Californios left a lasting mark. So, lasting mark would be another way of saying the legacy. California is full of Spanish place names such as San Diego, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. The Californios also introduced many of California's famous crops, such as grapes, olives, and citrus fruits. Most of all, they opened California to the world, and the world soon rushed in. And so for legacy, it says right here that they left a lasting mark. So what did they leave? All right. They left Spanish place names. Absolutely. All right. The Californians introduced many of our famous crops, right? Many of the things that we are still known for in California today. Now, last but not least, I want you to go back through the reading, and you're going to write in here just something that you thought was interesting that you learned about the Californios. It should be something that you have not already placed in one of these boxes. Now that you fill it in your notes, you're going to be turning those notes into the slideshow that has been given to you. Good luck, and let me know if you need any help.